The Cyberswap hack. So the Cyberswap hack led to a significant financial losses across 6 different chains, totaling over 48 million in stolen assets. Additionally, the platform's total value locked, the TVL, dropped by 60% within a few hours, so indicating a severe loss of user trust and liquidity. So, okay, let's talk about the extractor. So, to illustrate how extractor can prevent such incidents, I will walk you through a detailed setup process. So, the review of the setup based on the flow of funds, I will approach the setup in two ways. The first one is the reactive approach. I will configure a setup to pause the pull contract on the other network since the attack started 1-1 and was then replicated on other networks. And the second one is a proactive approach. I will configure a setup to add the suspicious accounts that interact indirectly with the monitor contract to a deny list. To achieve that, I will mocked the Cyberswap pull contract, but with additional methods, including the pause and the added to deny list, so that the extractor can pause these contracts as soon as a critical balance drop alert is detected on the Ethereum network, or add an account to the deny list as soon as the suspicious account alert is detected on the monitored contract. So the first step is to add contracts for monitoring. So I already add all these contracts here. So the first one is the Cyberswap contract pool. For this setup, I'm just going to use the Cyberswap WIT pool contract so we can monitor this contract on the Ethereum network. So this contract was already added. And also I added 3 more contracts that will be monitored. These contracts can exist on the same or a different network. In that case, I'm using the Envil network just for test purpose. So I added these contracts that was deployed on the Envil network just for the sake of the simulation. You can see those 3 contracts here. So, okay, let's start creating actions for pausing the contract. So for configuring the actions, I will select each of the Cyberswap mocked contracts I added on the Envy network to create an action based on the critical event triggered by Cyberswap contract on the Ethereum network. Here, I will set up a pause method to be executed in response to a critical event, simulating an immediate response action to an attack that happened in the real contract. So here's basically the configuration. So let me go to the actions. On the actions, I will click on the actions tab and I will click on create action. So here I will select the provider. That's exactly the wallet that will be used to call the method function. So make sure to have funds in this wallet. Here I will just type the pause on env1. That's the first contract here. So I'm just creating a pause method, a pause action that will call the pause function. And now I need to select the detectors. So the detectors that I'm going to use here will be first the address. I'm pointing to the Cyberswap Ethereum network, and I will select the attack detector. And here in the filter, I should basically use the dynamic filter param. That's a script that you can filter exactly the kind of trigger that you want to target. In that case, is the balance drop. So once the balance drop is triggered, I'm going to pause the contract because it's like a critical alert. And here on the gas price, I will put 100% because I wanted to front run the transactions using 100% of the market price for the priority fee. So I'm busting the transaction with that. And okay, I will create this action. So I can also do exactly the same thing on those two contracts. So here I can just click on actions again, click on create trigger. I will put like pause on env2, and I'll select the pause function. Same here. I will select the KyberSwap contract on Ethereum. So I'm listening to the events on the Ethereum, and based on that, I will trigger the action. So here is the attack detector. That's the detector that we are going to use for this example, and the balance drop detector to be more specific using the dynamic filters param. Same here, I will use the 100% of the market price for the product fee, and I will create the action. Exactly the same. Go to the actions tab, I create an action, the pause on Anvil3. The function is the pause function, and I will add triggers. The first trigger here will be the Ethereum, the same here. Oh, sorry, it's detector, not trigger. My bad. So here I will add the KyberSwap ETH, the attack detector, and also I will add the dynamic filter here. And same here for the gas price. So, okay, with that in place, I'm just configure all the three contracts to respond to the events that happens on the Ethereum contract just by pausing all of those three contracts at the same time based on the trigger. In our case, we are listening to the balance drop trigger. So that trigger basically is configured to trigger an alert based on the threshold that in that case is like 50%. And then based on that, we can just configure an action to be executed on our contract. So, okay, that's the first action. The second one is to add to deny this, because the contract, we can say that's a reactive approach, because we are just like reacting to something that already happens. But the second approach is a proactive approach. You want to add a suspicious account to a deny list, so that we can avoid that account can make transactions to the contract. So for that, we need to configure a second action. So we click on action tabs, we create a second action, and that time we'll name it like add to deny list on env1, and as a function we'll select the add to deny list. And now we use dynamic params. So basically what we want here is to get an information that was triggered by the monitor and get that information and filled in this text box. So we are going to get the suspicious address parameter from this monitor detector, and we'll fill it with the account address. Also, we need to provide the default information in case of this information is new. We have second information as a default. That case, I'm just using like the zero address, just to make it clear that the differentiate between the value, the real value, and the default value. And okay, based on that, now we need to select the detectors. Basically, we are continue listening to the events on the KyberSwap and also the attack detector. And here on the filters, we do something very similar what we did with the pause, but that time we are filtering by the indirect transaction to monitor contract. That's the type of the detector that we are listening to. Gas price, I can basically use the same, like 100% of the market price in order to boost the transaction. And okay, it seems okay, it looks good. Let me create the action. Okay, action created. I will do exactly the same thing for the Kyber swap NVO2 and NVO3. We are like simulating here different pool contracts on different chains. So let me just create another action here. Let me name it add to deny list on env2. The function is the add to deny list. Same thing here. Let's create let's use the dynamic params, and let's fill the dynamic params here with the suspicious address. That's exactly the information that we need. On the detectors, let me select the Kyber swap on Ethereum. Let me, okay, select the attack detector. And as a filter, let me put here the indirect contract again. Same thing here, 100% of the market price. And okay, finally, let me do exactly the same thing here for the third contract. So the actual name following exactly the same thing that I did before, add it to deny list on env3 and function added to deny list. Important to mention that we need to have owner permission in order to execute the method. So if I'm going to execute the add to deny list method, the provider wallet, that is this one here, needs to have admin permission in order to execute. So I already did it before. So in your case, if you are configuring it for your scenario, you need to make sure that you have that permission for the provider account. So on account, on dynamic params, I will fill exactly with the same information that I did before. And on detectors, I will select the Kyber swap ETH attack detectors. And also I will filter the params here and 100% on the gas. So let me just put that information here, and I will create the action. So, okay, now the same configuration was done in all the other contracts that are being monitored, so that we can protect those contracts independently of the network. So let's go to the next step. So for prevention to work, all actions must be created. And now we need to replay the same transaction that occurred in the day of the attack on KyberSwap actions. So in my case here, we used an internal tool to replay the transactions. So we have an internal tool that do that, simulating precisely what happened on the day of the attack. So now I will simulate it. So just a second. The simulation commands in order to trigger the attack. So, okay, the first attack has been executed successfully. So let's check the security monitoring tab. As you can see, you can now see alert here as expected. So on events, you can just like check the type of the alert is exactly the alert that we are looking for. That's the balance drop. So now let's take a look at the action. So there we go. We have the pause on the NV1 executed successfully because we configured it to listen to the events on the KyberSwap Ethereum network by the balance drop detector. So as you can see, is the execution of the pause method on the NV1. And here you can also see the details about it. For example, it's a balance drop detected. It's a 99.99% decrease on the balance. So it's a huge Uh,